And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, this is going to be an exciting day because, as most of you guys out there know, CGC's Pop Report was released today. So if there's any of you guys out there who might be watching this video after the fact, I just want you all to know that some of the numbers may change a little bit on some of the Pop Report numbers we're quoting, but the general thought is there. But with that said, this will be a little bit more of a debate style video than you might be normally might be used to on this channel. Swami is a pretty big fan of CGC, why I am not really a big fan of CGC. And if you're not new to this channel, you know that. But before we get into any of the debating or anything like that, or going over the actual CGC Pop Report, first off, I just want to say, Swami, thank you so much for doing me the most gracious of favors and coming on this channel and donating me your time. But for the few people out there who may not know who you are, feel free to introduce yourself to everybody.
Hey, everybody. Swammy. Back at it again, the white vans. It'll be a fun one tonight. I am the Pokemon Guru's guru that guides you to being a Pokemon guru. This is the Pokemon Guru's Guru Guide to Guruing. Our friend Pokeknowledge here has the link in the description. And if you want to stonk out on Pokemon cards, because they are the funnest way to invest in what you love, pick up my book. Other than that, I'm a little bit washed up, but don't let that stop you. I have a lot of knowledge that maybe. That's me.
Yeah. So what have you been doing now that you haven't really been making content or anything anymore?
I've been collecting Marvel cards. That market really took off a lot. Had some really sweet sales. I mean, so I got into Marvel cards and that market blew up, and I've only had to sell 3 cards. And it's like tripled the amount I put into it at least.
Wow.
At least, probably way more. But yeah, it's been fun. Just kind of Pokemon kind of wore me out a little bit. So I took a break, got into Marvel, and then it kind of started to take off. And so that's been kind of a fun roller coaster. It's starting to level off, kind of find itself. And yeah, just been hanging out, still keeping up with the Pokemon, but really happy to see this CGC report.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
See, I don't really, well, I don't dislike it, but I don't like what it's showing me. So I would be interested to hear. So I know before we kind of get into the Pop Report a little bit, anybody who's not new to this channel knows my stance on CGC and the videos I've made in the past and the criticisms I've made towards CGC. But you have mentioned before this video started that you are a fan of CGC. So can I just ask you the simple question of why?
Well, so I'll show you why.
Are you going to start pulling out Marvel 10s? Is that why?
I don't know if I got a 10 in here. So like I've been collecting CGC for almost as long as Pokemon. Let's see if I got a 10 in here. Ooh. I got a 10, boy.
Oh,
so that's a very tough grade to get. And this is a black book. I'm not going to get into it, but I like CGC. I like the company. I've had nothing but good experiences with CGC going on like probably 2022, probably like 7 years.
Okay. So I do have some graded comics downstairs. I don't have a lot, but I'm not, whenever I talk about CGC, I should make it clear to everybody out there that I'm never really referring to any other branches of CGC, whether it's their sports card grading or the comic book grading. I would say most, if not all, of my criticisms or all the conversations I've ever had about CGC has always the purpose has been 100% meant to be, directed towards their trading card division. So
yeah, and to me, Pikachu and Gyarados, they look good in CGC cases, I think. So I just sent the first week they announced, I sent cards off, and I was very happy with the cases that I got back. And that even included a case that wasn't welded all the way. And I was cool with it. It's a brand new company. You could picture like a whole operation going on for the first time. You're kind of like just getting started. Didn't have a problem with their welds. They fixed their welds within like a month and a half. They fixed their welds within like 2 weeks of someone complaining about them, which I thought was good. But the cases look great. I like that they grade tough. The perfect and pristine 10s are a little low, but I also like it a lot for modern. And the cases are just super clear. I think Michael Jordan looks great in PSA, looks pretty good in BGS. I think Pikachu and Gyarados look great in CGC. I think Spider-Man would look great in CGC. And I think Liliana of the Veil looks great in CGC. So
it seems like you like CGC for a lot of things. I just have to ask you a simple question. What would CGC have to do for you to just not like them? Or is there literally nothing CGC can do that you would be like, I no longer like this company? Because, and
I don't think so.
I'll be honest with you, like a lot of the people I talk to who are pro CGC, that's a question I always like to ask is, okay, I understand, like, you got cards that were maybe not properly welded, or the grades are maybe a little stricter than maybe you're used to, assuming you probably went with PSA in the past, I'm going to guess. And so just what would it take for CGC for you to be like, I don't like CGC? Because I bet you if you thought about that out loud, and
what would it take you to not like PSA?
Why don't I like PSA?
No, what would it take you to not like PSA?
Oh God, how much time you got? Dude, I tell people all the time, like, I'm not a huge PSA fan by any sense of the imagination. It's just, I understand what PSA is, if that makes sense. Before CGC was around, I was the most critical person to PSA. The same thing, I was critical to BGS about all the black labels they handed out, that it seems like that was like super scummy stuff to do. Or PSA like mislabeling a bunch of cards, CGC not following their pop reports correctly, like regrading cards of the same grade and like upgrading, or CGC's inconsistent standards with like weak 10s versus strong 10s. Like, I've said all that stuff, but I almost hate that argument too. It's like, well, PSA did it in the past, so now CGC is allowed to do the same thing. And like, that argument to me.
But I don't dislike PSA.
Okay, so what would it take for you to dislike CGC though?
I don't know. I haven't seen a grading company do something to make me just be like, no, I hate them.
So do you think you could be biased with just the fact that you kind of just said there's nothing they could do wrong?
There's things they can do wrong, but that's not going to make me dislike them. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. I think you have to differentiate the arbitrary nature of grading versus these companies, right? Because PSA, they've gotten lighter, they've gotten stricter, they've changed their label, they've done everything that CGC will do. And I don't know, like I think it is just part of the whole deal. We don't have robots with hyper smart AI who you can't argue with. It's just a objective. There's an arbitrary kind of like objective spin on grading as a whole.
So you don't think that if you have a new kid on the block, which technically CGC is for trading cards, they came around July 2020.
If they were GMA, if CGC started GMAing up
Yeah.
Black Star Entei 10s all over the place. I would not use them anymore.
Yeah, but they don't. GMA doesn't hand out 10s like that either.
Or am I thinking MGA? Well, I mean,
maybe not GMA. I mean, how many cards have you submitted to GMA in the past?
zero.
Yeah, I've submitted hundreds to GMA in 1 month in November of 2020 and nothing else. And I
What'd you
got
get?
0 10s.
Okay, so then I must be thinking of MGA.
Yeah.
So a company that I don't know the name of because I gave up on them the second I learned more about them, and all I saw was 10s. Yeah. They have like a blackish label.
That's GMA has a black label with like a baseball guy on it. But I've said this in other videos. There was a very small window of time where GMA had $4.50 grade-in with true 20-day turnaround times, meaning I sent away my cards and 17 days later, not 17 business days later, I had my return back. So that was just super. You got to keep in context what it was. It was a small window of time where the market just went absolutely insane for graded cards. So I graded just all the most bulkish possible stuff I had, unlimited 7s and stuff, selling them for $20, $30.
Never sent to GMA or MGA.
Yeah. So I have sent to them and I've never got a 10 from them. So I don't know how true that comparison would be. So, but this is the question I got asked, because when you have a new kid on the block like CGC, if you always look at everything that PSA or Beckett or the other big grading companies,
MGA, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about them. I can't talk to them.
MGA, yeah. But I just looked up Black Star Entei 10 and it's the second listing on the block. That company, if CGC started doing what MGA did, or is doing, I don't know if they're still around, I would not use them.
Okay, well, and that makes sense, but don't you think because CGC is the new kid on the block, that they should be held to maybe not a higher standard, but a high standard, meaning that if they're going to come on the market, being a already large company with a ton of experience grading, different things in the past. So while they're new to trading cards, they're not new to grading. So you would think that their management structure and business team would have a good understanding of how the graded market works. Like those guys should be experts. So when a new person comes on the block like them, they should be held to a high standard. But what I feel happened was every single time they did something wrong, people would just say, well, this happened before with another company. This happened. So it was a constant like, it's okay, CGC. Like,
well, I think if people weren't complaining so hard, you wouldn't have to come out and say, well, it's happened before and we got past it.
What do you mean?
The only time I was ever defending them is when people were just going batshit crazy, upset.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, if my only argument is if there's nothing CGC can do wrong, then don't you think that is very dangerous?
Well, I never said they couldn't do anything wrong. I said there's probably not something I could think of that would make me stop using them completely.
Do you think that is a scary thought for us as collectors and potentially people that are also investors? Because you got to keep in mind, there's two parts of like the graded market. There's the collector aspect and then the people who are potentially trying to invest in cards and get them slabbed and have the returns in order to potentially grow their collection or make a couple extra bucks, because graded cards historically, for some cards, that's where your highest returns are going to be, assuming your cards are actually truly near mint. But do you think that is dangerous, though, that it's almost like there's nothing they can do wrong, that we're going to stop grading with them?
I didn't say that they can't screw up, because they have already. I think we have a lot bigger dangers in the hobby than CGC, a company that has been consistent, and they've been pretty consistent. I think they did a pretty good job coming out in the graded card boom. Okay. Like I was watching Pratt's video, I think a few days ago, and he was talking about junk slabs, and he missed one when I think he needed to add a fourth list for a junk slab. If you know you got a junk slab. And I think you got a junk slab if you could take all the PSA 10s in the world, put them in your house and start swimming. Okay. Like the pink Charizard V. It has like what, 20,000 plus PSA 10s. I could put that in my living room and swim around. Okay. That is a much bigger problem than CGC being tough on grading.
See, I think it's interesting that you said one of the things you like most about CGC is their consistency. But in my experience, that my biggest complaint about CGC is what I feel is their lack of consistency. And where I really struggle with CGC is their lack of consistency with surface grades. I have never seen a company with such inconsistent surface grades as I have CGC. And
I thought they were consistent.
Yeah, I've seen way too many 8.5 surfaces. And I think where the biggest, most glaring point of that like issue is how many like non-hollow cards were graded and weren't able to get pristine 10s versus like the counterparts of hollows, reverse hollows, and like textured cards. The fact that there's more pristine 10 cards for textured cards, reverse hollows, and hollows, to me, just shows that their surface grades for non-hollows is such a super biased thing. And what I've seen happen and what I believe is happening is that CGC is artificially keeping down their pristine 10 population on all these non-hollows, because historically, I would say, especially when you look at other grading card companies, the cards that are most of the time grade the easiest are pack fresh non-hollows opposed to hollows, because one of the big deductions a lot of people get, we forget about reverse hollows, so much surface area, forget that. But just thinking about hollows, you also have print lines, you have, like silvering around the edges, and just, the normal stuff that goes with hollows. Hollow bleeds, that's already like a deduction point. So the fact that there's more CGC pristine 10s in these hollows and textured cards and reverse hollows opposed to the non-hollows is just ridiculous.
Is that as a percentage of the total graded?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yep. So I pulled up a couple numbers for you, and I just want you to think about this. So, and this is a card that I instantly thought of, and I was like, okay, what is probably the biggest non-hollow card that anybody graded? So I said, it's probably the Charizard from Vivid Voltage, the hollow that came in. Because keep in mind, there was a reverse hollow, and then there was the Cracked Ice Charizard that came in the Vivid Voltage theme decks. So the Charizard non-hollows had 3,219 cards graded. There was 4 10s. One perfect 10 and 3 pristine 10s. And one of the things you're going to find out throughout tonight's chat is the most bullshit thing ever, in my opinion, is that when you look at CGC's Pop Report, for the most part, all the pristine 10s that were given out for most of the cards I'm going to talk about and most of the sets all didn't have subgrades. So in my opinion, what does that mean? If you ask for subgrades, they graded your cards harsher because they knew that there would be more, eyes on it, and they would have to actually grade your card harder and not give you 10s. And we're going to go, and I have a bunch of examples of that tonight, but the Charizard non-hollow, 3,219 graded, 4 10s. When you look at all the amazing rares for Vivid Voltage, the amount graded is almost exactly the same. Like sometimes it's off by like 20 or 30 card different, but the amount of 10s for each one of those amazing rares is like 5x that Charizard. In which, when you think about it, what should grade easier? All these amazing rares that are obviously textured, have hollow, have tons of surface area, or a non-hollow Charizard? Which one should grade easier?
So run me through this again. So 3,900. So let's call it 4,000.
3,219 Charizard non-hollows graded.
All right, let's just call it 3,200.
Yep.
3,200 with 4 10s.
Yep, 1 perfect and 3 pristines. All 3 of the pristines did not have subgrades.
Yeah. So Vivid Voltage, which this is a beautiful, very easy to use pop report because I'm already at Vivid Voltage.
But when you look at the amazing rares and you look
What
at
numbers are the amazing rares?
they bounce around. They're alphabetical, I think.
All right, so Celebi has 38.
Okay, 38.
And it's got 3,800 graded.
Okay.
So to me, you're spot on. Like to me, that Charizard should have a high, either this Celebi should have a lower 10 rate or that Charizard should have a higher 10 rate.
Yeah.
If you're taking like, I actually didn't open that much Vivid Voltage. I don't remember the print. Same set though, right? It's non-hollow. That's a textured card.
The amazing rares are textured, tons of
hollow. PSA has the same thing. And so I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan about CGC when PSA has the same thing. They have the same thing with evolutions. You can look at the evolutions Charizard. Weird? Hold on. You can look at the evolutions Charizard hollow, and it's got a completely different ratio, 10 ratio, than all of the other hollows in the exact same set. So I complained about it last year, maybe the year before, but no, that's not a killer to me. They were too hard. They're too hard with their 10s, maybe a little bit. I think there's a lot of positives to this, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like PSA, BGS, all the grading companies don't have the same problem.
Okay, so I got another number for you. So remember how I told you that all the pristines for a lot of their 10s did not have subgrades? So for Aquapolis, which is one of my favorite sets, if anybody's not new to this channel,
I saw your video.
I like Expedition, I like Aquapolis, I like Skyridge. Those are some of my favorite ones. Aquapolis has 47 total 10s. 45 of them were pristines, 2 of them were perfect. So the perfects, we know what the grades are for the perfect, all 10s. So that leaves 45 remaining pristine 10s. Out of those pristine 10s, Aquapolis being a pretty expensive set, those cards are all pretty expensive. How many of those cards do you think had subgrades for those pristine 10s? Out of 45.
43.
0 had subgrades.
Are you salty because you were grading with subs or what?
Yeah. Yep, I am salty. But just think about that. So 47 total 10s, 2 of them were perfect, so we know the subgrades, you get them automatically. But for the other 45, you're going to tell me that there was 0 of those 45 cards graded with subgrades.
Wait, you get subgrades if you get a 10 and you didn't ask for subgrades? If you get a perfect
now, yeah. So if you get a perfect 10, not a pristine 10, a perfect 10, you get, which is kind of backwards thinking, right? Because if you get a perfect 10, you already know the subgrade. So you would think if you got a pristine, they would give you the subgrades, but it's the opposite. Perfect, you get the subgrades.
So Aquapolis is one of those sets that was sent in early. Maybe they were sent in before they started giving subgrades to perfect 10s, right?
Well, the perfect 10s have subgrades.
Pristine, you know what I mean, right?
Pristines, they don't give subgrades.
Right. So I'm saying, when did they make that change to where if you get a perfect, you automatically get the subgrades whether you bought them or not? But if you sent in
a couple months back.
Okay, so if you sent in 2020,
yep,
then and you sent in with no subgrades, you weren't going to automatically get that perfect bump, right?
Correct. But I'm saying I tried to find sets which probably, but now this is the crazy thing, is when I say that there's 0 pristine 10s with subgrades for Aquapolis, if you click on any of the 9s or 9.5s, you might as well just call it subgrade city. The amount of 9.5s that have subgrades and 9s that have subgrades it's like almost every, you can like barely find cards that don't have subgrades on the 9.5s and 9s. Like that is way harder to do. Like click on a 9.5 that doesn't have subgrades, and it's like, holy shit, you can't even find these things. There's like none. Now, Expedition has 21 total pristine 10s. They have 0 perfect 10s for Expedition. Out of those 21 10s, 18 of them do not have subgrades, and only 3 of them have subgrades. Expedition, Aquapolis, Skyridge have some of the best print quality of any Pokemon, especially when you talk about Wizard of the Coast. The print quality is fantastic. I'm telling you, man, there is.
I don't know what the problem is. I don't know. So what's the problem?
The problem is that what we've already known, this pop report has just proven it to be right, that CGC always had 2 different grading scales. They had a subgrade grading scale, and they had a grading scale where if you didn't ask for subgrades, it was a different different grading scale. And what this pop report is showing is that for all the people that paid the extra money for subgrades, they all got lower grades because of that. And if they decided to go without subgrades, they had a far higher likelihood of hitting 10s. Example again being Aquapolis with the 45 pristine 10s, all of them without subgrades.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I can't confirm that. It seems like you're onto something, but I don't know why that any of it would be an issue.
Yeah.
Other than, dang, should have submitted without subs.
Yeah, and Skyridge is just as bad, man. The only thing different about Sky is this is like the most backward thinking, but for all the reverse hollows and non-hollows for Skyridge, just not including the hollows or crystals, hollows and crystals being separate now for these numbers. For the non-hollows and reverse hollows for Skyridge, keep in mind, Skyridge is a big set. It's 144 cards. So there's a lot of cards that were graded in total. 4,984 Skyridge cards graded. There was 50 total 10s. 44 of those, guess what? No subgrades. It's just crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. I'm telling you, it's some sketchy stuff going on.
I don't know. I don't think it's a conspiracy.
You don't think it's a conspiracy, even though CGC kind of went out and did say on their chat boards that they grade, subgrade cards and non-subgrade cards differently.
They said this?
Well, one of their moderators said that because somebody had asked a question like, if we had a 10, is that saved somewhere?
That was from the beginning, but they didn't say they grade them differently. Right?
Well, he said it takes 3 to 4 times longer to grade a card. So to me, that means they grade it differently.
To me, that means that they got to write them down and make sure and that their subgrades are correct and make sure, because
you only have make sure grade. They need to make sure their cards are correct.
Right. So I'm saying that they're not necessarily grading different. He's not saying necessarily that they're grading different. He's saying that it takes longer. That's all that says. You can't take that and say that they grade differently.
How does
your
that
numbers say a lot? Your numbers say a lot, but that doesn't mean squat to me.
Swami, if you're going to grade a card without subgrades, you still have to assign grades to corners, edges, surface, and centering. Otherwise, you can't get that grade anyways.
Yeah, but there is more to that slab, is there not?
So you're telling me that
I am. That's what I'm saying.
And you honestly believe that you think it takes 4 times longer for somebody to put those subgrades into the
if computer. That's what some guy is telling me off the cuff 2 years ago, sure.
Wow.
Sure. Your numbers say a lot, but some comment in some message board 2 years ago doesn't mean a lot to me. No. And he did not say they grade them differently. He said it takes longer.
Yeah. Which
I'm okay with that answer.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm okay with that answer. I don't know. I don't see where the end of the world is. I think this could be a very good thing for Modern. This entire This entire pop report, you know? I mean, how many PSA 10 first edition Blastoise are there? Is there still exactly 100?
PSA, I
10 first
don't know
edition.
the PSA Blastoids. I mean, I know there's 121 Charizards first edition and there's 87 Raichus, but besides the big one Charizard and my favorite one Raichu, I can't tell you.
I got you.
So like I'm very up to date with the Raichu
There's-
population of 87, but I can't tell you any of the other ones.
So there's still 100.
Okay. Is Raichu still 87? But yeah, I only follow those two. The Charizard being the big guy and the Raichu being the best holo, obviously, in the set. And
So
that would be a debate we could have.
I don't know about the Raichu, but Charizard VMAX has 6 perfects and 63 pristines, which makes 69 10s, which is great because Charizard VMAX, I'll look up the.
And I'm sorry, I was talking about the 87 for, you were talking about PSA, right?
Yeah, I was talking about PSA.
Okay.
So Charizard VMAX has 4,911 PSA 10s. What I say, 69 CGC 10s with 2,769 graded. So to me, I think anyone that can look at this CGC Pop Report and get upset is also somebody that is eventually or is already upset with the value of modern cards because there's too many. You have 5,000 PSA 10s of Charizard VMAX. You have 1,000, or you have 2,400 CGC 9s and 9.5s, but you have 69 CGC 10s. Okay, and just stick with me here.
Okay.
First edition Blastoise, there's 100 PSA 10s. I think CGC can give you PSA WotC, condition rarity in modern. And that Charizard VMAX, if you just look at, and I know this is a set card, it is in a rough set, and the Charizard VMAX trophy, it's a trophy card. There's a story behind it. It's the first Charizard trophy. It came out during the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. I know there's 2 different narratives, but the trophy, I think the last sale I saw was $28,000. This is going to the ground. When you have that many mint cards, the value, they're going to be collectible, right? I'm not saying they're going to zero, but the upside and the PSA 10 first edition Blastoise upside is not ever going to be there for these types of print runs. I think CGC is perfect for this, personally.
I think it's very interesting that you said that the people looking at the modern pop reports, they wouldn't like it because they're losing money. Where I look at the pop report.
Not what I said.
Or what was your exact words of why?
I said the people that are upset with CGC are probably the same type of people that are going to be upset with the performance of modern Pokemon cards.
Okay. So where I look at the pop report and it makes me so happy, and it makes me happy for the way modern is performing, because if I could look at a card like a Charizard V promo from Champions Path in a PSA 10 with 20,000 graded, selling for $30 to $40, I'm like, holy crap. Yeah. This is the strongest Pokemon market in history. The fact that there is enough people out there that want that card that has 20,000 graded and are paying $40 for it. Nothing makes me more happy than to see those numbers, Swami. So I think when I look at the investability of modern,
but it's never going above what it's selling for today. The amount it would take for that card to move up, but the amount of people that are buying that card thinking it could eventually move up. When it never does,
I doubt there's that many people stonking out as an investment on that card. And if they are,
it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for modern in general, because a lot of cards are not going to move up. plenty of people that had talked to me when they bought SP49 Hidden Fates Shiny Charizard at 1,700, 1,500. They're not happy today. In fact, 3 of the 5 guys that did something like that aren't even around anymore. And you can't deny that people, the Charizard V, it's cherry picking, definitely cherry picked. It's just I think it's a good metaphor because of the trophy card that's identical. This is a heavily printed card, very mint. It came out in a world of pack to sleeve degrading. And then you have this trophy card over here. And I know it's a trophy, it's got a whole narrative, but it's scarce and it's doing very well. And it's doing what I think a lot of people in the hobby are looking to do in Pokemon.
Now, when you talk about that Charizard, and were you talking about the Charizard from Champion's Path?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When I look at that card and I look at the prices that people were paying, I think that there was a lot of people out there saying exactly what you just said, that you said most of those people left the hobby. There was no question. Those people were not cut out for Pokemon Swami. So,
there was a lot of people that were excited. Come on. They were just not knowledgeable.
$2,800. What is a Champion's Path ETB? $50, right? Mm-hmm. 2,800. How many? Math is hard. 560. Is that 560 ETBs you could have bought?
Did I say 2,800?
Sorry, 56. Wow, I added a 0 to that. Did you say? Yeah, I think you said 2,800 people are paying for that, right?
I was talking about the $28,000 Charizard. The trophy.
Oh, okay. That's a big difference. The trophy card one. Okay. But either way, like what I always, and I'm sure you've had this conversation. I'm sure this conversation's been had a million times by a million different people. But the question of who are the people that pay these super exorbitant prices right at release to be the first one with a PSA 10 of some super modern card that's going to be a million of them.
Yeah.
Swami, I will never know that person, but that's like not who this channel is really like made towards. I don't know those people.
No, I don't know them either.
And I mean this honestly. Have you ever even met that person?
It's insane to me. It's always enticing. Like, wow, I could have done that. Right. There's been a few products over the years that I was able to get my hands on early with big stonker cards like that. Even back in the day, and you're like, wow, I could have done that, but that's always been scary. I don't know. I don't want to kill your roll. You were on a roll there a little bit. But I was just saying, Charizard VMAX Champion's Path, PSA 10 Pop 5,000, easily could go to 10,000. Just depends on what people have sent in, what we're still waiting to see. And people will continue to send that card in. If you have that card and PSA grading comes down to $20, or even, I think Pat was saying he wanted $12, then the card's selling for $200, you're going to grade that card. There's a lot of motivation for people to grade that card, but
well, yeah, and I think that's the thing too. But to go back to like the CGC Pop Report and stuff, so how do you like the rollout of it?
I think it looks really good.
Yeah. Do you feel like it? What do you think the reasoning could be that because I talk about this all the time, this small channel, we get to do a little speculating. Why do you think it took them so long to roll it out?
I don't know. They were probably looking at like, collector groups who are always complaining about the display. And maybe they just wanted to make sure they made a very easy to use display. I don't know.
I would say maybe, but their sports card grading service, which was released after the CGC trading card one, had a pop report before the trading card one. So I don't know.
I know you want to tell me why you think.
Tinfoil hat there, ready? Yes, yeah. Put my tinfoil hat on. Yeah. I think they just didn't have enough 10s. And I think that and this is what I think happened, and this is speculative, right? I think what happened was CGC bought some of their own 10s, meaning they either bought pristine cards that were on the market or they bought 10s that were on the market from eBay or whatever. Because if I was going to test my graders, that's how I would test them, is I would say, okay, this card under our grading standards, which is CGC, is supposed to be at the highest end. So this 10 or this perfect 10 should always be a 10 or a perfect 10 because it's at the highest level. And you would think that, right? Like if you got, what did I say?
No.
If I said you got
I'm not gonna
3,219 Charizards and only 4 of them were enough to be 10s, like those cards are probably so much better than anything else. They should be able to repeat. So my guess is that CGC bought some of their 10s off the market and resubmitted them to themselves under, you know, like a phantom name and got 9.5s on like perfect 10s and went, wait a second. A perfect 10 is supposed to be this.
You're diverting. You're
unachievable.
diverting. You are the reason they're giving out more 10s.
No, I think
that video, you CGC, your video and every other video like it is why they're giving out all this moaning and bitching, and that's why they're giving out more 10s. You did good. You did a good job.
Holding them to a high standard.
You did a good job, and you have held them to the flame. That's fine. I've never had a problem with that, really. But
let me ask you.
I have no idea why.
Do you think that any person from CGC, do you think anyone has ever watched one of my videos?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Oh yeah.
How many times do you think CGC has reached out to me?
It's riveting.
How many times do you think CGC has reached out to me?
I have no idea. Zero.
So I want you to think about that. So I don't have a big channel. You know, I have no delusions of grandeur, but I have like 3,000 subscribers. Those CGC videos will get between 1,000 to 2,000 views. So that means 2,000 individual viewers are watching that video. That's, I would say, 2,000 people in the trading card grading area who would be interested in that video is a decent amount of their customer base, right? Or at least a percentage of their customer base, 2,000 people, like people you would want to talk to or relate to. And the fact that I've made all these videos and CGC not one time has their customer service reached out to me and been like, hey, maybe you have some jaded view of us that is not true, and let us tell you why it's not true. Never once. Radar, on the other hand, like spoiler alert to anybody watching this, Pokemon Radar will be on the channel tomorrow. But his very first CGC submission, he got a bunch of 8.5s. He made a video. He complained about the 8.5s. CGC customer service contacted him and regraded all his cards 9s. Like,
good for him.
Well, good for him, but I just want you guys to understand. Like,
was he like as hyphy as you were?
Oh, I don't know.
You're pretty hypey, man. I watched that video a few times. I remember I was going into this UFC fight and I turned your video on to get pumped up.
Which one was it? Was it the one where I just talked about all the dumb things
CGC? Yeah. So I know PSA. I know people that work at PSA that watched that video. No, I definitely think CGCs watched your video. I don't know. I have had nothing but a good experience with CGC too. You know,
even though that you could crack out your slabs.
Yeah, it only happened on one, and I actually have a 30K Bulbasaur in it. I re-welded it up myself.
Is it the length 30K Bulbasaur?
It is the. Oh man, do I have it? Probably.
Is it sitting next to all your purple energies?
And hey, I like PSA. I got Set Viper and PSA, baby. Got a little golden Frieza in PSA. But the thing is, what was I getting at? I like CGC, you know, even with the prices, even with the resellability, right? I'm in a unique position, right? Thousands of raw cards that I bought for, pennies each. It doesn't matter what card it was. I just got burned on a CGC sale. A Japanese shining Tyranitar. I shit you not. It is a PSA 10. I told the guy who bought it, I was like, please look it over and decide for yourself, but crack this thing out and send it to PSA. You might say, well, why didn't you do that? Well, I've got things I want to move and buy and keep moving. I don't want to crack it out because there's always a chance, right? You and I both have sent a PSA. We've sent cards we know we're going to 10. We've sent cards we think are going to 9. And then we've sent cards that it's up in the air. We have no idea. It could 50-50. I don't have the time. Like I'd rather take the 400 or whatever, even though a PSA 10 is going for 800, 900. So I got burned there, right? But I didn't, because I got that card for $25 and I graded it for 12 and I made over $350, so I'm good. And for every bigger card that got a 9.5 instead of a 10, I had 9 or 10 other Sun and Moon GX cards that infinitely grew in value, selling anywhere from $30 to $45. A card that I would never have been able to sell before. I paid $12, made 45, or sold it for 45, and I made $31. What did I lose? I mean, it was literally the cost of grading to triple the cost of grading in a sale. So yeah. I have had nothing but good experiences with CGC on the selling side even. Now, I'm not even looking at PSA 10s. And then especially in the beginning, especially that first year, when you put a 9.5, buy it now at 90% of a PSA 10, I was getting sales. Everybody and their mother was screaming that they weren't getting anywhere close to a PSA 10. I kept saying, put it up for buy it now, put it at 90% of a PSA 10, and eventually it'll sell. And all the cards I wanted to sell for, they did really well. I know there was some Scream promos in there. Those type of pricing, high pricing, did fine. And then you start getting your later submissions back. And even in November, December, January, you get a lot of auctions going. And when you sell a $46 plus shipping freaking Sun and Moon GX card, something that if you sold raw, you would have made zero, you would have made 25 cents. I can't complain about that. Now, that's a problem, but that's a separate issue, I think. That's a whole junk slab, and that's not really a problem. $45 is pretty collectible. I think that card maybe goes to 10 to 20 to $25.
No,
anyway,
I definitely find your take pretty fascinating because it is so different than how I would have thought. Like, you said you've never had a bad experience with CGC, but like that Tyranitar, you told the guy that bought it, like, hey, by the way, this got a 9. In your opinion, like, this is potentially a 10 at PSA, like, crack this card, resubmit it, and you'll make a lot of money. Like, to me, that would probably be like a bad experience with CGC, but I could understand where you're getting at too, where your price points in cards is, much lower. And that makes sense. Like, we're all probably in the same boat when it comes to that our, entry points were a lot lower. But it starts to bring up the question is, okay, well, how much can we start just not liquidating, but like selling our cards at what probably isn't the true market value for the condition of that card? Now, is it the true market value for that card in a CGC label? Maybe. Is it the true market value of the actual condition? Because in your opinion, you think the actual condition is PSA 10 worthy. So that means the true market value is a lot higher. So that's a bad experience with CGC, where if you keep doing that long enough and over a really long extended a period of time, sure, like one card, not going to make or break you. But now let's say you did it with 5,000 or 10,000 or 15,000 cards. And at 15,000 cards selling at $30 to $40 a piece, and you're going to take 10% or 20% less than a potential PSA sale. Well, when you add 10 to 20% off
Oh,
of
it was
50,
I lost 50%.
50%, or when you start adding a lot of cards and you say, well, I'm going to start taking lower and lower percentages on all these, with a big enough window and a big enough sample size, you're going to potentially look at the dollar amount you lost as, holy crap, I lost a car. I lost a Tesla, like.
Well, I bought a car, literally, right? I mean, I was selling Sun and Moon GX cards, not like the fancy, the like the regular V cards of Sun and Moon, X and Y, for way more than they should have been going for. So I can't sit here and go, I'm going to grade PSA. I'll cut to that real quick, but I don't know. I can't sit here and go, there's been plenty of times where you sent in a card to PSA multiple times. I've seen it done. I'm not really a regrader. I've never really had a card where it made that much sense when I got that kind of grade back, but you've heard it before. It can be a 50-50 toss up sometimes. Sometimes a card is a 10, but it takes you 3 submissions to get there.
Yeah.
Now that card, yes, I lost $500. Definitely. That's and I sold it because I think I can make $400 now go just as far as $900 in 10 months, with the amount of risk of where the market will be in however long and the amount of effort. I don't have no time. I can't be signing up for these lotteries and pay, but when PSA gets back down, heck yeah, I'm going to be submitting with PSA again. Definitely.
What do you think it's going to now? Do you think, assuming PSA could, start to really ramp up production, which they are, last month in the month of February, they graded 800,000 cards. That's a lot. In the year 2021, they graded 8 million cards. That's a lot.
Ridiculous.
So that's
a ridiculous amount of cards.
Yeah. Forget about just
junk
the
slab
cards.
era.
Just think about how much plastic that is alone. But PSA, again, they're proved. I think in January they graded like a little over 600,000. So from January to February, they ramped up production by like 150,000 more cards, which is staggering when you think about just the sheer amount of cards that is. 150,000 slabs is a lot. So assuming that, yes, PSA can really crank up everything, what my fear is that PSA will just kind of go back to what they used to do, which was just crank out as many cards as they can, as fast as they can. Again, going back in time, it was a very different market, right? Like they probably weren't grading 800,000 cards in a year, let alone in a month. So it's different. But assuming PSA can ramp it up, what my fear is everybody's just going to look at prices and they're going to go, I'm not touching CGC cards anymore. And I'm definitely not sending cards away to CGC because I know I'm just going to get a lower price and I'll send them all to PSA. So what will that mean? That would just mean whatever cards are on the market that are in CGC slabs will just continue to have less and less buying pressure. And of course, there will always be like a condition rarity floor to them where it's going to get so close to like raw prices where you're going to want to just crack this thing and say,
you're right.
This is the nicest binder collection card I could ever get at a 9.5, like something no one would ever consider. That's my fear, is that the prices just get beaten so hard when PSA ramps up that CGC cards can just never recover. Because I think for a lot of people out there, their thought process and their big argument is that eventually CGC 9s price-wise will be comparable to PSA 9s. And I just personally don't ever see that happen. If anything, I see a bigger and bigger disparity happening.
I don't know. So if people barely grade with CGC, yeah, I mean, people barely graded with BGS for years and they're still around. You're right, though. You're right. And to me, especially with it's an easier 10. It feels like, for how tough it is to get a 10 at CGC, you can't, as a seller, as a business, operate on that risk. You're the chances of you getting a 10 are so few and far between. You can't, there's no predictability to it. So you have to go with what's predictable. Even though it's way easier to get a PSA 10 as a seller, if that's what the market wants, that's what you're going to go for. And I will be grading with PSA again when they get down in pricing. I haven't been doing much grading at all. I'm a little worried about graded cards in general. I do think when you look at the amount of spend in the hobby per month and how many cards are getting graded and how many are coming out, and you extrapolate that out into the future, you look at how many cards are listed between $10 and $50, and then you look at how many cards are listed between 100 and or 50 and 100, and you keep going up. Mm-hmm. And you start looking at it, you're like, wow, okay, for how much we're spending in the hobby, it looks like we are actually going to gobble up all of this supply within 2 years, probably around a year and a half. I think the last time I was looking, it was like, wow, eventually we are going to suck up all of this supply. Now that does not include as PSA comes down in price and we send in like crazy again.
Yeah.
But I haven't been doing too much grading lately. 0 this year.
Yeah. I think we're going to come into a weird period of time when it comes to like cards available on the market that are already graded. I think we're going to start to see some like crazy low prices, because right now the market is just super saturated with just graded cards from CGC and Beckett and PSA and every other mom and pop grader who just had a sonic welder in their basement and like, hey, I'm going to make a business today. So all those cards, I think the problem is the market's so oversaturated that it's going to take a while for people to start, and I'm going to have to call it like sifting through it and finding the really truly non-bulk cards in the lot that were undergraded. And there's going to be some people, in my opinion, Swami, that are able to like navigate this bulk slab error and pick up a bunch of like high grade, high quality, oversaturated cards in the market. And, you know, the people not buying the Charizard V from Champion's Path, but the people going after like some more niche stuff, I think there's going to be a lot of people that could potentially come out of this like extremely well in the long term if they navigate it, because
I have friends that are doing great.
Yeah.
They're picking up some great cards at really good prices. And they're doing it weekly. And it's great. I'm not. I've been chasing rarity kind of outside of Pokemon right now, just for a long time, actually, I guess. But I think you're right. And there's people that are doing really well right now. They're getting some good deals. Like some of the stuff people are showing me like, hey, I picked this up. I'm like, how much did you pay for that? That's amazing. You know, I mean, there's going to be people that navigate really well. Definitely.
In the last PWCC auction, not the one that ended on Sunday, but the one that ended before, I bought the first edition PSA 9 Raichu that was on there with buyer's premium, $630. I was with buyer's premium.
That's amazing.
So it was less than $600 for that PSA 9.
I want to know what the pop.
Do you know how much a heavy base set first edition pack cost? And Raichu is not one of the cheaper cards in the set. Like, you know, you got like, yeah, your big 3 and stuff, but like a Raichu, and probably more likely than not, you're going to grade a 9 if you pull a holo from a base set pack. Like, sure, there's a chance for the 10, but there's also the chance for the 8, or if you grade with CGC, the 8.5. Trust me, this card is an 8.5 at CGC all day. But just think about it, like and for me, that is a really good deal. You know, $630 for PSA 9 first edition for my favorite card, which I'm just going to own all of them someday, given enough time, enough money. But
wait a minute. Hold on. Let's organize by the date.
I'll pull out my PWCC vault. Is that what you're looking
congrats
at?
Though, man. So you got that. I mean, that sold for $1,100 in February of this year.
Oh yeah. And I bought it for less than 600 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like there's so much options out there. But have you been picking up any things you think are good deal?
Wow, man. So March 30th of 2020 was the last time that card sold for $600.
That was me.
No, March 30th of 2020.
Oh, 2020. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you.
Like 2 weeks, yeah, 2 weeks after lockdowns. Yeah, I mean that card sold for $600 in 2019, September of 2019. So
yeah, that was
that's
before
a great hell yeah. Good for you, dude. I approve. That's amazing. Yes, I like it a lot.
So my vault is just hold on, this is just my vault. It's just all base at Raichus.
You're crazy, dude.
But let me
You're
find
crazy,
the first edition.
Man. I gotta go to Pokemon Price and check the drop on that card.
So that's the first edition Raichu I bought. Insured value. So there's my purchase price. See if I could get that to $525.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah,
I like it. If it sold for more, it sold for more in 2019 than you just paid. I think that's amazing.
$525 for a PSA 9 first edition. I didn't even know how much I paid for it. I thought I paid $600.
So like that's really exciting just because do you know how many people were on the sidelines waiting for Pokemon to get back to normal for almost 2 years?
Well, you know, how many people told you they were waiting on the sidelines and had no true intention, you know? That's why I could pick up first edition 9s for $525 on PWCC. That's why. Because those people that were all waiting were full of shit. They just wanted to buy like Vivid Voltage ETBs at $100.
I don't know, man. Nice purchase, dude. And I've seen some of those lately. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. It's really cool. And that makes me feel good if we're getting back down to 2019. I'm comfortable with anything priced 2019.
So shout out to Treasure Hunters. Appreciate the super chat. That's nice of you. But
what'd they say?
He didn't say anything, just sent a meme.
Okay, so for all of the demand we added, that card had 353 in the pop. So they've added 70 to the pop the last time that card sold for $600. So they only added 70. Now that's a good chunk. You know, it's like a quarter, 25%, 20% increase in pop, but 70, that's nothing. Like I went to gym class with more than 70 people, you know what I mean? It's probably 69 people, but I think that's exciting to me. I don't know.
I think it's just going to be, like I said, it's just going to be this, but it's not going to be every card too. And I think that's what people will think too, is that it's just going to be like, oh, every card's going to go cheap. Like, no, that's also not the case, but there will be cards out there that are great values and great pickups. And like one of the cards that keep in mind, this is during the hype and stuff, and I didn't realize it, but Echo Base Collectibles, somebody that's been on my channel, you know Joe as well.
Love Echo, yeah.
He had a Rayquaza Gold Star he graded with CGC. It got a 9.5, and he sold it for, I don't quote me on the number, but I think it was like $9,000 less than a PSA 10.
I know.
Like I think that's what it was, like either 8 or 9,000. Like that.
I just remember it was like one of those like don't look, like crisis averted, like I remember he was really like upset about that. I felt bad for him, and I'm not gonna laugh now. So because it's I hear that's rough. That's rough.
But so this is, I think when I talk about CGC and I talk about the pop reports and what the pop reports showing us too, is and maybe this is a bad thing too, is like you shouldn't always just try to play like the social justice warrior and like always look out for people and stuff. But in a way, when I see these cards sell for a lot less, and especially more the high end stuff, with the low end stuff, like go ahead. A lot, don't get me wrong, CGC was very valuable for a little bit of this like burn and turn game, like, and I call it like the game of hot potato with graded cards, right? It's like, the game of hot potato, like everybody keeps handing around in the
Yeah.
circle until eventually
Yeah.
somebody's left with that card at the end and they're the one that gets burned. Like it's the same exact thing. But I always think about it's like, man, some of these people send in really high cards away. You just want to like tell them, please don't do this, or who's giving you the advice, because they're not always telling me they're doing it for their collection. Sometimes they're telling me they're doing it as an investment. I'm like, send it for $75 to CGC, or you could have sent the same card to PSA for 200 and got 1,000 for it with a CGC slab, or $2,000 with a PSA slab. It's like, yeah, you would have paid,
No,
100.
I cannot say there were so many cards. There was definitely a great window, right? You put a buy it now, and you let it sit until it sells within 90% of the PSA 10. That was my experience. That was not a lot of people's experience. If you
No,
put it up to auction, it can go any which way. But also, I put up, like, for example, I put up Evo Charizard or whatever, and it sold for, if this Evo Charizard was selling for 180 and PSA grading was like, I think $100, was it 150? The minimum before they had this $50 tier.
so the $50 tier is technically still 100. The 50 is only if you win the lotto. So it went 200, 150, 100, and then 50 now.
I think it was 150.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, well, the 10 is selling for way more than I just sold the 9.5 for at $150.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually made more money on my Charizard than someone that paid 150. Now, that person might have been the $10 submitter, but they submitted 6 months ago. You know what I mean? So it definitely had I think a lot of people did really well with CGC as a whole. I mean, through this entire pandemic market, it's just, where are they at going forward? I like CGC. I really do. I'm not going to grade with CGC. As soon as PSA comes down to, if they get down to, did he say 12? If they get down to 12 and the market is saying PSA, I want to pay a premium for an easy 10. I will send the PSA.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the weird thing too, is right now, PSA, the lowest is with the lotto, $50, and for bulk for CGC is 15. But a big thing about CGC was those subgrades, and that's an extra $10. So that brings you to $25 a card for bulk for CGC. Now, with what I just showed you from the previous numbers, that they obviously are only giving out pristine 10s, the cards without subgrades. And if anybody is just entering the chat now, Aquapolis had 47 total 10s. 2 of them were perfect, and then 45 of them were pristines. Out of the 45 pristines, 0 of them had subgrades. So, and you will notice that on all pristine 10s, very few of them have subgrades. So it just shows that they're more lenient for anybody who's just joining the chat now. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, your numbers tell a lot. They're very telling. I think you're onto something. I don't know how conscious it is. I have no idea. But the numbers don't lie. But I tell you what, look at Evolution's hollows and look at the ratios between Charizard and every other goddamn hollow in that, and tell me that they aren't being extra picky on that Charizard, because the ratios tell the same thing. So every company does it. I am not going to sweat it. I cannot sweat it.
Yeah. To be honest
To me,
with you,
personally.
I know nothing about Evolution Pop Report because that is not a Pop Report
Oh,
that
I dissected the moon, baby.
That's
I
not
got out,
one
I
that I
hopped out of
know.
Evolutions and I was like, what's his name? Let's
In
go.
today's video, I quoted the Aquapolis, the Skyridge, and the Expedition Pop Report. Oh, and I did talk about a big voltage card, which, uh, but I don't know. It just makes me, I don't know. I guess it's just that thing where I guess we'll never really know the answer of why CGC does seem to grade non-hollows opposed to hollows, reverse hollows, and it's just why do they grade them so differently?
I think they could lighten up.
You know.
But what do you think about my argument about CGC being the savior of modern? It would take a lot. It would take more than just their extremely hard grading. It would take sentiment and blah, blah, blah. But
to save modern Swami, all you gotta do is lower the price for grading. If they could go back to like a $6 grading or something like and make it worth it, because you got to think for modern graded, probably a lot of these cards are only ever going to be worth $20-$30 with the exception of like major chase cards. No,
I'm saying there's all this investability. I don't see any of the investability in modern. I don't see it. Now, the hobby is bigger than any time I've ever been in the hobby, but these populations are disgusting. These populations are crazy. I'm not saying it's CGC's fault, PSA's fault. No, I'm just saying if you send in minty cards and you get thousands on thousands, Luka Doncic had 20,000 PSA 10s, I think, in early 2021. That card went from being like almost $2,000 to $200, right? So in that card, what it would take, that card is never hitting $2,000 again, unless the Fed, 10x is the money supply. I do not think that card, if that card ever hits 1,000, there will be 10,000 cards on eBay the next day. You know what I mean? Like the amount of downward pressure on a card's price and upward momentum when you have 5,000 SV49s with probably at least 5K more people that didn't get in before the easy grading, the cheap grading. It's just, I worry a lot about it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see the upward momentum. I see the upward momentum in the PSA 10 Raichu first edition Pop 84. And I also like, is it 83? And 87, I also like 87.
Yeah.
I also like the 9 because 87 is nothing. I think there's plenty of people that can afford a $10,000 card. I think there's at least 87 people that can afford a $10,000 card. And all the people that want that card in the highest grade possible, like yourself, are going to go to the 9. And even though it has Pop 500 or whatever we just said, for something, I can see upward momentum in that card.
Yep.
I don't see it in Pop 5,000 SV49.
Yeah. I think there are some cards in this hobby that just have, and we talk about it a lot, and maybe sometimes people don't really understand all the time what we talk about, but when we talk about a card that has real, true fundamentals, and real, true fundamentals can be a lot of things. It's like a rarity aspect, a scarcity aspect, but then there has to be like a demand aspect. And first edition base checks a lot of boxes, and not just what I talked about, not just rarity, not just scarcity, not just demand. And because when you talk to most people like in our age group or the large majority of people spending money in this hobby, you talk to them, you're like, what's the set that you bought as a kid? I would say for a large majority, if not close to 90+%, is base set. I would say, or base set, jungle, fossil, like the 1999 definition of Pokemon sets. And when you think about the cards that there's the most of out there, base set, jungle, fossil, those 3 sets combined, with the exception of maybe some of the modern stuff just recently printed, like there's so much of that stuff. But when you talk about like a Raichu first edition in a PSA 9, that is definitely starts to go to, condition rarity. but on not just like a low end, but like for me, checks all the fundamentals of a good card. Like you combine the two and you got 500 total PSA 10s plus PSA 9s. That's 500 cards. Swami, there's 80 people watching this live right now.
Yeah.
I bet you there's 80 people out there that would want that card, you know?
Hell yeah. Yeah.
And that is just one channel. So now all you need to do is find me another 420 people. Like that's not going to be hard to do. So
I got a question for you.
Sure.
What's your favorite modern card?
That's a good one. So Cosmic Eclipse, probably the Pikachu character rare is my favorite, just because it like hit that weird nostalgia. I love it. Okay. Yeah, it was
that card.
Red. Yeah, it was red with Pikachu, but I always imagine in my head it's Ash and not red.
It's Ash.
Yeah.
You got that card, and you've got Blastoise, first edition, right? This card, this modern card, has CGC 10 Pop 100 in 15 years. This Blastoise WotC base set has PSA 10 Pop 100 in 15 years. In 15 years, you got all these people, not just the Generation X or whatever they call us. You've got all the people, pretty much. Which card do they value more, right? I think you could take Blastoise, but is it that far off? Is a Hidden Fates Shining Charizard not cooler to a lot more people? Like there's a lot of people out there that might be younger than us, but there's a lot of people that would say I would take that Hidden Fates Charizard over that Blastoise.
And you know what, Swami, you're right. And the market lately has shown that there are a lot of people that would do that. When you look at prices for modern cards and you look at prices of vintage cards, what you just said, sadly, and I don't know if it's sad, maybe it's a good thing for Pokemon.
It is what it is.
But you're right. There's a lot of people that would pay way more. Because
if it had like a similar pop, you might see this Hidden Fates Charizard, this thing that came out in 2019. We're talking 15 years from now.
Yeah.
You and I look at it like, are you kidding? It doesn't even compare. Yeah. But there's a lot of people out there that if the pop was that scarce, you might get people that bid this thing up in some ungodly range to us, in the same range as that Blastoise, because it is scarce. That's what rarity does, right? Yeah. Now it is condition rarity, and there would be 20,000 PSA 9s behind it, making it a little less special. But take a Jordan rookie and take a Jordan Kaboom or Jordan PMG, and these numbered modern sports cards are rivaling or doing more than their rookie cards, their vintage of the same player. And it's because of the scarcity. And I think CGC can save modern scarcity. But if they're too tough, then I'm not going to grade with them. Then they're not going to get any cards to have a pop to create that. But if everybody wants value in their cards, right? It's the same thing Rudy's been saying about, he's been moaning about MTG for years, Rarity.
Yeah. No, and I think you're right. And you could be talking about just absolute condition rarity when it comes to modern. And you could be right, like the Beckett Black labels and the CGC Pristine 10s and the very low pops for those, and then the 1,000 PSA 10s don't get the premium that those get. Like that could be a thing, because even when you look at like first edition Charizard, like the Pristine sells for a 4x of what the PSA 10 does. And I don't really know what the true price is, because there's only 3 Pristine first edition Charizards. Gary's got 2 of them, Logan Paul's got 1 of them, and so who knows what the true market value is.
I don't keep up with cards that I'm never going to buy.
Yeah, so who knows what the true market value is, but we know it would go for more than a PSA 10 because of the condition rarity of that card. So
yeah. And I don't know. It's funny. Like I guess I'm not as hard on CGC, but I also will be grading with PSA. Like I can tell you right now, I think this market stays hot for 2 or 3 more years. And I'll be grading with PSA when they get those prices down. But I like CGC. In fact, if I had a personal collection card, I would prefer CGC. It's that crystal clarity. But I have another question for you. What is a collectible price range where if you buy it, you're not thinking at all, zero thought about how much that card will go up? Like, you're just happy to get that card.
What's a collectible price? It depends on the card, right? Like,
it depends on the card, but like if you were to get, I guess I should clarify. I look at a lot of cards within, if it's a pizza, like if it costs a pizza 20, 30 bucks, I sweat that a lot less.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that is definitely like a personal thing and, personal financial thing for a lot of people. But, it could be super dependent. Like I've talked about it on this channel before. Like I own some dead TCGs. And when I tell you they're dead, 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 like shot, and they will never come back dead. And I spend $30 on some of these booster boxes because it's $20 to buy the booster box and it costs $10 to ship it because no one's going to sell it for a loss. So it cost me $30 to buy something where I was the only person to buy it that month. So if I feel comfortable, and I talked about it on one of my other lives, and I talked about it again because it's a product I can't possibly shill. I only own one booster box of it. But 1995 Flair Fox Kids cards, Fox Network. It has a Bobby's World rookie card in it. Bobby's World. It's got Spider-Man and Wolverine cards in it. It's just an awesome, weird product. Like, if I feel comfortable buying that product, I think I spent like $28 or something, 22 or 24. I don't remember. It was less than $30. If I feel comfortable buying that, which has really the value of that is technically zero because there's no market for it. But if I feel comfortable spending 30 on that, and I look at Pokemon and I'm like, well, am I worried about Pokemon in, spending $30 on Pokemon if I will spend 30 on something that's worth zero? So it's subjective, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm sure you do the same thing. You're a big fan of just random TCGs and stuff, right? So
yeah, definitely.
And I'm sure you don't buy that stuff to stonk out and make money.
No, it's amazing how much, like especially all the Weiss, it's amazing how much turned into stonks, even though I did not intend on any of that becoming stonks,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
And, so I just real quick looked over at the chat, and Kelvin Corp said, let's see what happens when organized play comes fully back. I love to be in the market now that we have cards for players and collectors. And I am very interested when organized play really comes back. I think we're just kind of scratching the surface. I know Worlds is going to happen in London again this year, but I don't think we've really like shook out a lot of the new players that are eventually going to hit the market. And a lot of that's going to be like whenever Pokemon trading card game online could really go mobile, because right now they're not mobile. And when that's just an eventuality at this point. Whenever that happens and people have been, saving up their code cards and stuff, and they're going to start building decks, they're going to have to need the actual cards. And that's one thing beautiful about Modern, right? Is that TCG player and stuff, people are sending bulk away. And a lot of that bulk is going to be some of your good trainer cards, whether it's your boss's orders or, your switches or, whatever card you're going to use.
Yeah. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But that'll be fun. I was watching Darium's tournament. Darium's has like a video of an event that I love, and I was watching that 2 days ago, and that'll be great to see people together. You're looking at parents, right? And they're spending like their Saturday, they just got done. One kid just got done with like soccer, and they're taking them to the Pokemon tournament, and so many happy faces. Maybe people will start to love on their LGSs again when they can have good times there. Definitely. Play will be cool. Never been to Worlds. I'm going to Collecticon in Denver in October. You
Yeah,
coming, baby?
I'm like a 20% chance of that happening. That is
Let's
a
start a
very
Kickstarter. If
no,
MetaZoo can start a Kickstarter, we could start a Kickstarter to get you to Denver.
no, I don't want money from anyone, please. But so Pokenomics, I just read, he said like rookie cards are the ones worth a lot for like when you talk about some of like sports cards and stuff. And he's talked about that also being for Pokemon. But that's like a weird double-edged sword because I think that is definitely like super true that rookies are very valuable. But then sports cards, you'll see like some one of ones or ones of fives. That's like signature jersey cards or signature, all this crap that sports cards has. And those cards sell for more than the rookie cards just because of like
Yeah,
artificial.
the rookie might have pop 300 or something.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it'll become like this artificial scarcity for modern cards. And it is an interesting thought of it's like, will we ever start to really look at that for Pokemon? And then will we still really start to dive in? Is it's going to be like, well, technically all the card ass cards are rookie cards for some people, or, it's going to be.
Yeah. I think the rookie is real. I wasn't downplaying the rookie. I was saying that the rookie is the most desired card usually for a sports player. Like if you're going to collect a sports card, you're going to immediately go look at what their rookie card is. The thing is that sometimes those rookie cards have populations that are so high that scarce inserts, just like you were saying, scarce inserts can be selling for way more than the rookie, even though the rookie is the most desirable card, usually for any player. But yeah, no, Pokemon, I think Pokemon rookies are definitely a thing. I like looking at what's their rookie shiny. There's a lot of sneaky shiny Pokemon out there that they didn't name it shiny, right? Or shining, or put a star, that are out there. I like those. Now, maybe that's a little too deep, right? Maybe that's a little too much work and effort to go find, and it's just a fun way to collect.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think rookies are real for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a weird thing with Pokemon because there are some like good I guess you would call them rookie cards, but then sometimes you can have a bunch of cards like that came out real close that like could potentially do better. I don't know. It's tough. Let's see.
Super cool that you bought that card for $525, man. That's amazing. That's awesome.
I got my ear to the Raichu market. I got that. I don't have my ear to a lot of markets, but I know the Raichu. I could smell a Raichu coming up for auction. So
I know the slow poke, big slow poke collector. Might be Slow King, but I'm pretty sure it's Slow Poke.
Yeah.
He has got his ear. I'm like, how many of these things are you going to add to the vault, my guy?
Yeah. So I see a lot of people trolling right now in the chat because you're a big MetaZoo guy, right?
No.
You're not a MetaZoo guy. Okay.
No problems with it. I have some MetaZoo. I was given a lot of free MetaZoo, not from like MetaZoo or Mike or anything, but Meta Mario. I met this big MetaZoo fan at Collecticon, and he gave me some MetaZoo. So I've got some, Kickstarter.
Were you hanging out with Basic that time? He got it all.
That was the night. He got that friggin' booster box.
I heard that story. And if anybody doesn't know, you could go back and watch that live with Basic. He tells the story of when he got a bunch of free product.
Yeah.
free Kickstarter MetaZoo.
Friggin' Kickstarter booster box. He got it for free because he's such a charismatic, likable guy.
He is definitely charismatic and likable.
Yeah.
Mr. Pokedragon said Pokemon rookie cards are more when you think about it in 20 years time when there might be 2,000 Pokemon. Yeah, in a way, I could see that being true.
Well, I could see some 15-year-old kid with time on his hands who opens up a Galarian Zapdos that's like, all right, what are the Zapdos cards? Because this card's sick. And then he starts going. He's like, okay, well, what's the first Zapdos card?
Yeah.
Bam. Right.
Yeah.
That's like what it always is. That's how you get to rookies. That's how you get to first appearances. And
Yeah.
I don't think I don't even think it's controversial to say that rookie cards are a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's,
like
that doesn't mean they're all going to stonk hard. Maybe their first rookie insert, like their first rainbow rare or EX or level X or hollow. Sometimes they're a lot of characters, their first card is a non-hollow.
Mm.
Maybe you what's their first appearance as a holographic?
I wonder if like that Zapdos example you give, if you're like, okay, the rookie card is base set. It's the number 16 hollow in the set. And then you're like, you go through all the Zapdoses and you say like, what's its first secret rare? And then you go to like Rise and Rivals, and it's the first secret rare for Zapdos. And if you just keep doing that, right? You keep connecting all these weird dots until eventually like you go after.
And you have a CGC tinfoil hat.
And you got a CGC tinfoil hat on, and you just keep going down like this rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
You get hyper connected to the cards and you become a collector and you create a Zapdos market by holding all the product.
Yeah. Just like Gary created a Charizard market by holding all the Charizards.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, man. How's the chat doing? Because I have not had it open tonight. Usually a chat guy, but
yeah. Chat's talking. If chat has any, so I do want to be respectful for Swammey's time. So probably are you good for going for like 50 more minutes?
I'm good. Yeah. Yeah, if you're good, I'm good.
So if there's any chat or any questions the chat has, now is your time to ask them. Just write at Pokeknowledge and it will highlight on my screen. You got any questions for me and Swami, especially if you have any like CGC related questions, because that was definitely like the topic of this video. I knew we would always sway away from the main topic. We tried to bring it back a couple times, but
yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can say, right? I hear you, man. I hear you.
Oh, Lord Pokebloke said Rise and Rivals. No, it's Supreme Victors. Yeah, sorry. Rise and Rivals is the secret rare Surfing Pikachu. Basic Trainer said, super serious question. Will the World Cup 2022 have an impact on the Pokemon soccer theme card markets? I have no clue. You're asking the wrong guy about soccer.
I just got a soccer card in today.
Did you get the Pikachu on the ball?
I got a Ronaldo.
Oh, okay.
Very happy with it. Very, very, very happy with it. You see?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know who Ronaldo is, but I don't know. Is that a good card? I'm guessing it's a good card.
It's a good card, man. It's a good card. Very happy with it.
So Mason's got a question for you. Question for Swami. When's skits coming back? Yeah, when are you gonna come back on YouTube? I know there's a lot of people.
Skits. I got some skits. I've got some skits that I never stopped thinking about.
For anybody,
they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What?
So for anybody out there who's listening to this video during the fact or after the fact, there's a link to Swami's channel down in the description below. I recommend you guys all go and giving him a subscribe. And the skits he's talking about is just, you could kind of tell him a little bit about what the skits are.
I should make them available again because they're all private, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I knew some of yours were, but I thought.
Yeah, I made pretty much all of them private. I should make that one guru video because that was a lot of fun. But the skits, I gotta be honest, I have been working like a dog. Really, it's like one of those weird COVID come back to the real world, adjusting and just working a lot weekends. But it's all kind of like I'm finally getting caught back up with what seemed like a year and a half worth of getting caught behind.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm feeling a lot better literally within like the last week or two. Maybe I throw a skit out there every now and then and we got summer coming up. I'm sure I can come up with some laughs. Either that or you can laugh at me.
So Shining Light Bulb 1000 said, Poke Knowledge, how often do you sell cards? As often as I need to. I'm at the post office like 4 days a week, so I'm always selling cards. Really, I used to like selling all my cards through PWCC. That was just like, that was the most dream scenario in the history of this hobby for a very short, like 4-month window, but that kind of went the way of the dodo. Kevin Clare said, let's decide a card to buy out right now and make it happen. I can think of a couple cards.
There's a lot of cards in Marvel you could buy out because there's only like 20 of them made.
Yeah. I think Mason would be a good person. So I would say if I were to create a buyout in a hypothetical situation, I don't want to do it because that'll happen. But I can think of a couple cards right off the top of my head.
Screw it. Do it.
You can do it with a lot of stuff.
I'm quick, man. I'm ready. Let's go.
I would say if you did it right now for a buyout of, should I do a modern card, you think? Because modern is probably the toughest one to buy out. If you were to buy out full, and should I do this? Maybe I should stop now.
I'm ready.
If you were to buy out the Mimikyu full art rainbow rare from Lost Thunder right now, I bet you can make that card go up 50% in price by tomorrow. Don't buy it though. It's probably like I bet like that would be how easy a buyout would be.
I would say there's probably, all right, you could do it. There's 29 listings on eBay at $20 a pop.
For what?
What is that? What is that? $600? That's one Raichu, baby.
For what card?
For the pink Mimikyu GX 206 of 214. Ultra rare Lost Thunder. Sun and Moon. 29 results.
Oh, you're talking about the pink one. I was talking about the rainbow rare one.
Okay, what number is that?
That one's the 226 out of 214.
Oh, 226.
Yeah, you could definitely buy that.
16 results. Buy it nows at 70. Most buy it nows are at 60. There's a PSA 9 for a couple listed. Yeah, you could buy this card out right now. You'd have to check TCG player, but you could easily buy this card out, I think. So what are we getting at? What's our
I don't know why
floor?
somebody asked me to do that.
I'm just kidding. But for real, what was the whole point of that thought process?
Where did I get that card from?
Just where were you going with that thought?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody asked the question in the chat, so I just answered it. But no, my thought process was I was just thinking of a rookie card, and that was like the first full art Mimikyu card. So
was it really?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't see anything on TCG player. Maybe I screwed up that.
Wes Bragg said buyouts are funny.
You watch it though. I mean, you could go on there, spend $400 on all the raw Mimikyus, rainbow rares, and maybe make that a little bit more like $700. Buy it out, and then everybody, a lot of people will list them, right?
Yeah, I bet you if you went to sold items, I bet you somebody went out and bought it.
I will do that. But for example, like if you were to buy this card out, there's 2 auctions that are ending over this weekend. Whoever's bidding on those are going to see that none of the others are available anymore. And they're either going to let you try to buy it out, or they're going to be like, oh gosh, this is my only chance to get this card. They could pump up the value of that card, which is like inorganic, organic pumping of a card because it might not even take you doing it. We're getting very unethical right now.
Yeah, we should stop.
Yeah.
So SGR, how do you say, Sarge SGR7 said, do you think the sorcery game is going to die if they're only dropping once a year?
SGR, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's some people that seem like they're really excited for it. Can you imagine how excited you would be for a set that you waited a year for? Like, I know what you're getting at, that maybe you kind of forget about it, but then it gets close and all of a sudden you start hearing a couple things and somebody comes out with a video and you're like, oh, wow, this is coming out.
So I think a set like that, I mean, that sorcery game, like I actually bought some of the Kickstarter of it. It just ended, so like people can't buy it anymore. But I did buy some of it because I just thought it was interesting. The fact that it has like some really adult style cards, and if I ever pick up another game, I need to pick up a game that is secondary to Pokemon, if that makes sense. Like I know a lot of people picked up like MetaZoo. And I think for a little bit, I was maybe a little hard on MetaZoo. There was reasons I was like hard on them. And I think a lot of my reasons were justified, but I also think I was hard on them. Like I'm able to see both sides of that coin. But I think if you're going to pick up something to be secondary, it can't have Pokemon type releases where it's just set after set after set, product after product after product. So I can see sorcery or a game, maybe not sorcery, or maybe a game like sorcery that doesn't have like crazy release schedules where it's just a secondary thing for people and they're able to just pick it up leisurely on their own time throughout the course of a year. Because think about like Pokemon, right, Swami? Like if you want to keep up with Pokemon products, you're like, I'm only going to do booster boxes, ETBs, and what else? 3-pack blisters, just those 3.
You crazy?
That's expensive. Booster boxes, 3-pack blisters, and ETBs. That's expensive for every single set,
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, no, I see what you're getting at, definitely.
Lord Pokebloke said, if you were to get unethical, how would you get unethical?
I mean, even that Mimikyu, you really cannot buy it out. Like that card will become available. I think.
Hell yeah. But how I would get on. Yeah, sorry.
One of the reasons it might be so scarce is that a lot are off for grading right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
How can I get unethical? I just buy and sell that card back and forth through a couple different accounts, and that freaking card is 120 by the end of the day. And people are so irrational. They won't see the cards that were also on the market that were listed for less and not selling. People will go to get the price comparisons for that card, and they will instantly look at sold listings because people are not always smart. They won't be like, well, how many cards were on the market and what were the prices? What were those cards actually listed for? They're only going to search it by sold listings. Like that will be the first thing they do. So by the first thing they do, then they start to see cards on the market for less. They're like, oh, this is a good deal because this is selling for 30% less than market. So then they create a new market. That's how you be unethical. And that's the dangerous thing. And I want to say that it was Catch 'em All Collectibles last video when he talked about like the dangers of, these auction houses where products are selling, but they're not getting paid for. Like an example being the Illustrator Pikachu had a sold sale listed of $900,000, but come to find out it was $720,000. But all the, advertisements said it sold for $900,000. All the news outlets that picked up that article listed at $900,000. That card got shilled to the moon. It got shilled up by $180,000. It's crazy. And
so Peak That Choose, and there were a lot of comments in here that I missed. SGR I saw my name pop up a few times. I wasn't able to read. So I'm just reading what's there. Pikachu, he says, do you think a new IP has a chance at breaking into pop culture with so many OGs still around? Maybe not specific to cards, but maybe a show, game, etc. Any fear we're stuck with what we have? I have been like, Goku is a god. No, Goku is an angel and Vegeta is a god. Like, how long are we going to go on with the same IP? The only thing that I know that was brand new that just took the world by storm is Harry Potter. Pokemon did it before Harry Potter. I think you'll know what the next thing is. I don't, like you said, I don't know if it'll have cards or anything, but yeah, it's crazy. These things, these IPs just don't die. There's a couple things, obviously these companies, Disney owns like everything now. Nintendo owns everything now. Like, all of this IP is owned by these very big, very safe companies, and they're just going to go for profit. But another thing is, like, we have a whole generation that knows Charizard and we were telling stories about Charizard when we were still imaginative and lived in kid world. Like, these things are starting to become like our Greek gods. Like, if you learn about how people interacted with like the Greek mythology, it's very similar to the way we interact with all of these characters. Even though they're fictional, we interact with them the same way. We put little totems up, we create little trinkets for them, we tell stories, we connect over them. It's very like human to mythologize all of these characters: Vegeta, Frieza, Charizard, Pikachu, Red, Gary, Professor Oak. It's just it's just crazy. What's crazy to me, I started doing a lot of research on that because it's wild to me that there isn't like a new Pokemon like every 5 years. It takes 15.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty elegant, Swami. I like that a lot. Oh, that's good. So real quick, we got a super chat from Treasure Hustlers. He says, "Awesome live. You two should team up. Poke could be the heart and Swami could be the hustler, and together you guys would make a bunch of money."
I'll make it money, baby. I'll make it money.
But yeah, it's 10:36 my time. So
thanks, man.
Swami, I definitely do want to do this again. I really enjoyed this chat. I really enjoyed having you on the channel, and I feel like this was something that was long overdue anyways. So
yeah, I had a lot of pent up anger at you, and I just had to take your head off. For anyone that missed the very first 15 minutes, we absolutely annihilated each other.
No,
that's I'm kidding, obviously, but thanks, man. This was fun. I hope you come to CollectCon. That'd be fun.
I think it's funny. Like, I think from the outside looking in, somebody would look at me and you and they'd be like, wow, these guys are super similar. But anybody that's in the know or in the hobby could understand, like, there's big differences, but like, that's the beautiful thing of this hobby. And that's what I strive to do for today's video, is because you need to have like the yin to your yang, right? Like you need opposing viewpoints, because if you don't have opposing viewpoints and you're only listening to one side of an argument, like, that is the worst possible thing anyone could ever do for themselves, especially in this hobby, is only listen to one side of the argument. So to bring you on and somebody that has opposing viewpoints or a different view on things is vital to the success of this hobby.
Thanks for having me on, man. I enjoy all your stuff. I really do. I like you. I pretty much agree with you on a lot of things with CGC too. Also, I just if you ever get the time, if you could ever do a meme video again, that would be crispy. But you've been crushing it, man. You've been crushing it with these interviews and getting people on, and it's amazing.
The meme videos will come back eventually. It just takes more time. But I did that CGC was a meme video, kind of. All right. Thanks again, Swami. But for everybody else out there, one more time, link to Swammey's YouTube channels in the description below. For everybody else out there, we'll catch you on the next video.